Welcome back to Sisters Assembled, where we are giving you guys all of the Marvel news. Well, not really, about 3 topics for the Marvel news for the week. Moving right into our first one, we have a bit of a slate update, for better or for worse. As of right now, it seems like, oh my gosh, I almost said Doomsday. Secret Wars may be the only movie in 2027. And mind you, as of right now, that movie is coming out in December of 2027. So,
Yeah. Also, just like a quick little correction here. This is Sisters Assembled, but it's Sister Scoop portion
what did I
of
say?
Sisters Assembled. We are always Sisters Assembled.
We are, I wasn't wrong.
It's not wrong. I just want to clarify. You're
That's
listening
right.
to Sister Scoop, so we're good. All right.
I didn't even catch that. Didn't even know I said that.
I was waiting, and then I was like, no, she's just going to keep on going.
I didn't know.
Back to the topic at hand, though, because we are on a time crunch. So to give a little bit more context to what Katie was saying, basically there was an unnamed film on the slate for 2027, specifically in the July slot. So think roughly when Fantastic Four came out this year, Deadpool and Wolverine the year before, that kind of late July, very close in timing to SDCC slot, which I actually quite liked. They're 2 for 2 in the last 2 years on that slot. That has now been replaced. It's now The Simpsons will be releasing from a Disney perspective that weekend or in that time period. So, to Katie's point, there might only be Secret Wars. That means we will go from December 2026 to December of 2027 with only one film, an unknown number of shows. I mean, look, there is a part of me that is genuinely happy that they're not going to put things in between the 2 films that are so clearly, precedent, that's not the right word, and then sequel, because we all remember the time between Infinity War and Endgame and how it very much affected our feelings about Captain Marvel, which upon later rewatches, Katie and I have felt is actually much more solid than we remember, simply because of the time that it came out. I also forgot about this, but Ant-Man and the Wasp came out in between Infinity War and Endgame. I didn't remember that either until I was reading an article and I was like, wait, that's when that came out? So, I do think that like putting things in between these major tentpole films does not, set those films up for success at all. So I'm not upset that we're gonna like not have something, because I think from an overarching narrative perspective, it's actually going to be better for us. That said, the idea of going an entire year without a film, like they better heavy up on the shows, because from a producer standpoint, what the heck are we going to talk about for an entire year?
I mean, okay, here are my things. Yes, I totally agree with the whole, like, let's not put the pig out to slaughter here, because that's essentially what they did. I didn't even know the second Ant-Man came out. Like, to my...
I
seriously
don't remember that scene, which now, like, in retrospect,
if you
because
think about
they
it,
get dusted, like, makes sense.
Yes.
But I guess, like, I never really, like, even when we did the replay, I didn't think about when that would have released.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, we always say Captain Marvel was the pig to slaughter that was led. But if you think about it, really, I guess Ant-Man and the Wasp was, because nobody even remembers that one comes out in between. So I do agree in that front. I think, why bury something in between? We're about to be covering Far From Home. Hey, guess what? After Endgame, you just threw that movie out there and then left us for like a year and a half. What do you want us to do with that? I forget that movie comes out constantly because...
And it's so good.
It is. So good. But what are you supposed to do with that? Because we all just were like, oh my God, Endgame just happened. And for some weird reason, 2 months later, you were like, here's a random Spider-Man movie. And it's like, bye. Yeah, literally. And so I do think from that perspective, I do think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, from a podcast side, it's like, let's hope there's shows, because what else? But there's always more to talk about. There's always things we could do. We obviously are doing our replay series, but we have a couple, things we've talked about over the past couple of years that we're like, whenever this ends, we like would love to do this type of series. Yeah. So it's not like there aren't options. That's like a very selfish point of view for us, because we do need content to obviously fuel the show as a whole. But I don't know. I think it's a good idea. Just like, let's not kill something out there. It really is leaving it out there for it to just get chomped on. And I just don't think anything, whether it's good or not, deserves that. So I'm okay with this slate removal. I think we should give the gap. Any shows should hopefully enhance the gap. I would like to think the shows were obviously not a factor during Infinity War and Endgame. So that's kind of uncharted territory, to be honest.
It could be interesting too. Like I'm thinking about like a Daredevil, right? Like and how it's like
Right.
in the MCU, but it doesn't always deal with some of the larger things, like the way that we've seen it so far. Like we know that, for example, like there was stuff going on in the Thunderbolts probably at around the same time as when
Right.
Daredevil Born Again season 1 was coming out, and it was never talking about it, though it was very firmly in the MCU. So depending on how things go in Doomsday and where it leaves us off, like it's very possible that because Matt Murdock is not in Doomsday as far as we know, it's very possible that that can just be going business as usual while there's much bigger things happening in the multiverse. So we will see, but it could be possible we don't even have to address it in some of the shows.
Well, and think about, I mean, they want to do Daredevil every year, right? Okay, well, that's only the third year in a row because it started this year. So that
X-Men
could be a show.
97's an option.
I was going to say the same thing.
Your
You have
Friendly
X-Men
Neighborhood
97.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, you have some of the animated stuff. You definitely have options. So I'm not too worried. I'm sure we'll find some more information about the TV side of things to fill that gap. But I am okay with the movie falling up the slate as of right now.
Agreed.
All right, we're gonna have to rapid fire this. Okay, Channing Tatum, love of our lives, Gambit to all of y'all is talk about Doomsday. Pretty much, he's like, expect things like Deadpool, Wolverine. This is how this movie's gonna go. This both makes me nervous and excited at the exact same time.
I think the quote was, "Your brain is going to ooze out of your ears," which,
yes,
yeah, it does. It's like, oh, I'm excited, but it's also too far away for me to be fully excited. But then at the same time, I'm like, don't get my hopes up, because if this was 2017, I'd be like, yes, they're going to absolutely kill this. It's going to be incredible, like event level viewing, 100%. I would have had no crisis of confidence whatsoever. Now he says that, and I'm like, but your track record is a lot murkier than it was, 8 years ago.
See,
and I
honestly,
don't trust you.
My concern is Deadpool and Wolverine was perfect because it balanced Deadpool of who he is and his essence with the whole multiverse and like TVA and all that stuff. And I think it balanced it so well along with the cameos and along with all of that. And so my concern is the balance being interrupted because you are carrying so many characters, you're bringing so many storylines together, and I'm a little worried about trying to repeat something that has worked so well, because I feel like in that department we have not always been able to follow the mold. And like, look what happened with Ragnarok versus Love and Thunder. That didn't work. So that's actually where my concern is. My concern is also like, don't make it too goofy. Doomsday doesn't deserve to be goofy.
I don't think he means literally, tonally, at like Deadpool Wolverine. I think you have to put it in perspective, though. That's the only MCU film he's ever worked on, and it came out to this very much like acclaim, and people really liked it. I think he's coming at it more as a general perspective of like, you as the, because if you look at what he says as a whole, his entire statement beyond just the Deadpool and Wolverine reference, he's saying you as fans are going to really love this. Like, if you're a fan of the comic books, this movie is for you. And I think that Deadpool and Wolverine can be said that same way if you were fans of like the nostalgic piece of the 21st Century Fox. So I don't think it's necessarily even relating to some of the like cameos or things like that. It's more like the scale. Deadpool and Wolverine was at a huge scale for just a quote like double character film, but then also like the level of excitement that people should feel, because people were really, really excited about that film. I don't think he means literally this is Deadpool and Wolverine. He's just referring to the one film he's been in.
And truly, I hope it's not. But I do think you have to some degree, take it from a possible literal standpoint. I'm hoping that's not true, to your point, because like, as more of the quote goes and everything, I'm hoping it's just the scale and everything you kind of just touched on. But I will say, I get concerned when people are like, it's gonna be like this movie, because sometimes it does end up being just that surface level. And that is a little bit of a concern I have. I'm hoping that's not true, but it is a little bit of a concern that made me have. I'm just putting it out there.
All right. Well, that wasn't the part that concerned me, but I guess we have different qualms today.
I mean, and my concern might not be valid, and that makes me feel better. But that's my overthinking of like, oh God, please, please just don't go that too far down that route, because it worked for what it worked for. I don't know if it will work for Doomsday, so I'm hoping that's not true. But again, that's my overthinkingness and just fear of like, God only knows what Doomsday is going to be.
I think it stems all from a lack of trust in the studio, and they have done that to themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
So
perfect.
Sorry, we love you, but you did.
Yeah. Well, speaking of lack of trust in the studio,
perfect segue.
The segue is kind of perfect. My Queen Elizabeth Olsen has said she is willing to come back for her superhero role as the Scarlet Witch. I think I have to just speak on this as obviously a fan and one who's kept up a lot with this. One, I mean, we all know the girl was not very happy with the last rendition of her character. Neither were her fans. Like nobody was. So and she called them out for that, and I really do appreciate that. She said, this is not how my character should have went. Like I was not ecstatic about this. I didn't like how she was, portrayed, whatever. But I also, as far as her actually coming back, I mean, like, duh. I feel like there's so much to that like you couldn't have written off the Scarlet Witch like that at all. And I think if you did, that would have been one of those things in 10 years we still point back to and be like, wow, Marvel really phase 4 and 5 were a little crappy, but like, wow, that was that moment, And so I am glad that she's excited that, she will want to reprise her role. I think we all knew she'd be coming back at some point. That's not really a secret, but I was worried because she was so unhappy before. So I was a little worried she wouldn't want to come back.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest takeaway from my perspective is like, understanding a little bit where Lizzie's head is at. Just, knowing, to your point, like she has been very vocal about her frustrations with what happened in MOM and how she was written. And so the fact that she's open to coming back is like, okay, she's kind of like worked through those emotions, and she'll probably be more, and she said this, like more intentional about like signing on and making sure that she feels good and comfortable and excited about the scripts that she's going to be bringing to life as a Scarlet Witch. I know she mentioned even in this, I think it was a panel where she was talking, but saying, there's certain storylines she still wants to do. I mean, she's been a huge advocate over the years for House of M.
Yeah.
I hope she continues to like scream that from the mountaintops, because that would be a huge moment. So that's a big one, but I think overall a very positive update. She's been in the MCU forever. Don't mess this up for some of the oldies but goodies, please. Just like continue to like write them, well, and watch the projects they were in before. That still baffles
it feels
me.
like common sense, but
yeah,
yes, you
really
have
hard,
to say
apparently.
it. Yeah. All right. Well, that has been this week's Sister Scoop. Thank you guys for joining us. We will be back next week as we cover 3 new Marvel news topics. Of course, make sure you guys are also listening to us on the podcast side, as well as we have new episodes every week. And we will see you guys next week. Bye.